Today we're going to be talking about the converse of the Pythagorean theorem. So converse is just kind of a way of saying, of flipping the if and then aspect of a theorem. So basically right now the Pythagorean theorem says if a right triangle then a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Okay? The converse basically says if a squared plus b squared equals c squared, then it is a right triangle. That's basically all it means when it says converse. So it's just flipping the if and then part of the theorem. Okay? Now we can go a little bit more into this because if it's not a right triangle, so if this isn't true, the way that it works can tell us what type of triangle it is. So if we look here at our notes here, again, if the two legs added together are equal to the longest side squared, that is a right triangle. We know that because that's the Pythagorean theorem, right? Now, if the two legs added together are less than the longest side squared, that means it's obtuse. And if you think about that, obtuse means that the angle is more than 90 degrees, right? So it makes sense that it would have the longest long side. Okay, right triangle will look like this. Okay, that's a right triangle. So this is going to have an angle that is more than 90 degrees. That's what makes it obtuse. So it makes sense that it would have the longest side. And then if the two smaller sides added together are greater than the longest side, that means it's acute. And again, that means it's less than 90 degrees. So it would look something like that. So again, smaller angle there than 90 degrees. It's just a little cute angle, right? Little cute angle. Okay. Now, let's look at some examples of this. So, let's start with number 2 here. So again, if you add the two smaller sides together and they are, so you're looking for the longest side, right? That's your first step, and that would be 10. So that means 6 and 8 are your two legs. So if I square them, add them together, that would give me 36 plus 64 equals 100. 36 plus 64 is 100. So since they're equal, this is a right triangle because that holds up with the Pythagorean theorem. Okay, let's look at another example. Let's look down here at number 5. So this one, if I look at the smallest sides, they're 30 and 45, right? So 55 or 54.5 is the longest side. So when I set this up, it would be 30 squared plus 45.5 squared, possibly equals. We're just going to we'll just put a dash. Well, I don't know. We'll put a colon there. Whatever. We don't know if it's equal yet or not. 54.5 squared. So 30 squared is 900. 45.5 squared is 2070.25 and colons or something. I don't know, whatever you want to do there. 54.5 squared is 970.25, which add those together, they're going to be equal. So that's another right triangle. So let me look for one that isn't necessarily going to be right. So let's see here. let's try this one right here. So longest side is 32.5, right? That's my longest side. So if I square and add our two sides together here, so 8, so it would be like this, 8 squared plus 32.3 squared, and then whatever 32.5 squared is. So 8 squared is 64, 32.3 squared is 1043.29. So add that to 64, and I get 1107.29. Okay, and then 32.5 squared is 1056.25. So if I compare those, the legs are bigger, which means that the longest side is smaller. So again, if you think about it, what type of triangle is going to have the smallest long side? An right triangle, an obtuse triangle, which has that big angle, which would create a pretty long side, right? Or an acute triangle. So this would be acute. Acute is going to have the smallest long side. So acute is your answer. Okay? And that's basically all you're doing for the converses. You're just squaring, adding together the smallest sides and comparing it to the longest side. If the longest side is bigger than the small sides, that's going to be obtuse. If it's smaller, it's acute. If it's the same, it is right.